Brother, 35 is not the end, it's when the game changes its rules. People say that when a man passes 30, he starts going downhill past his prime, past his chances, past his charm. But the truth is completely different. 35 and beyond is when you start playing a different game, with real cards on the table and a mindset that no longer fears loss. At this age, you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to chase anyone. You don't need to act strong just to look okay, because now you understand what true value is your own, others, and love's. Society makes men believe that aging means losing worth, that only young guys are attractive. But if you look closely, the men and women truly respected aren't the youngest, they're the calmest, the most grounded, the ones who know themselves best. The world out there is chaotic social media noise, fake independence, endless distractions. But young women, especially Gen Z, are getting tired of that. They're surrounded by men who haven't found themselves, always rushing, lost, and afraid of being left behind. And because of that, they start feeling drawn to mature men, those who bring safety without saying much. A man over 35 has something young guys can't fake: foundation, experience, and presence. When you speak, your words carry weight. When you're silent, your silence attracts. When you act, it's not loud, it's precise, timed, deliberate. The allure of a mature man doesn't come from trying to look young, but from embracing who he's become. Young women don't just see appearance, they feel energy. They can laugh with many, but they only feel peace beside the one who makes them feel safe. And that sense of safety, that's what a mature man brings. It's 2025 now. The world is changing fast, but human instincts remain the same. Women still want to feel protected, guided, and to see a man they can trust. And if you live right, keep your rhythm steady, then no matter how the times turn, the game is still yours. Because at this age, you no longer look for value, you are the value. And when you realize that, you start seeing the world differently. You stop asking, why does she like me even though I'm older? You understand it's not random, it's instinct. Say what you will, bro. But human instinct doesn't update like iOS. Technology may change every year, but human nature doesn't. Women since the beginning of time have always been drawn to steadiness and the ability to protect. The only difference now is that protection no longer comes from muscles or physical strength, but from emotional stability, self-control, and the peace they feel when they're with you. No matter how much society talks about equality, freedom, or feminism, instinct is still instinct. Women still gravitate toward men who have direction, strength, and the ability to lead, because in a chaotic world, the one who stays calm is the one who can be trusted, and older men often have that. They don't need to race. They don't need to prove. They just stand firm. That quiet confidence becomes their magnetism. Like a lighthouse, it doesn't chase the waves. It just stands there, shining steadily, letting others find their way to it. Young women, especially Gen Z, live in turbulent times. They've seen too many who mature early with words, yet crumble when things get real. So when they meet a calm, confident man who doesn't talk much but radiates certainty, they feel it instantly. That's what age gives emotional stability, and science backs it up. Recent psychology studies show that Gen Z women feel safer dating men over 35. Not because of money, but because they feel guided without being controlled. A mature man can listen without judging, advise without imposing, and protect without suppressing emotion. That's the difference between growing older and growing up. Once you understand this, you stop fearing age, because the truth is the more you grow, the closer you become to the version of yourself that women are instinctively drawn to. And that's the turning point, bro, when you realize real attraction doesn't come from chasing, but from standing firm in the right place. But standing firm doesn't mean being passive. It means knowing exactly where you're going. And this is where the next part begins. A man leads. He doesn't control. She doesn't need you to be her father. She just needs you to know your own direction. Young women aren't looking for someone to lecture them like children. They're strong enough to make their own choices, but they still need a man who makes them feel safe enough to let go. In today's world, where they must make hundreds of decisions daily about work, friends, even who to trust they're tired, what they lack isn't freedom, it's peace. When they meet a man who knows how to choose, how to lead, how to say, "I got this," they feel like they've just exhaled after holding their breath for too long. In this era of decision fatigue, where everyone is pretending to be strong, a man who can lead doesn't need to be loud. He just needs to be consistent. When you know exactly who you are, you no longer need to control anyone. Because true strength isn't about commanding others, it's about keeping yourself centered when everyone else is losing balance. You'll notice the older you get, the less you argue, not because you're weak, but because you choose silence to protect your energy. She'll feel that. There will be moments when she tests you, pushes your limits to see how you'll react. That's instinct. She needs to know if your steadiness is real or just words, and if you stay calm, if your tone stays slow and your eyes steady, she'll know this isn't a boy, this is a man. Modern masculinity, especially today, is no longer about muscles or dominance, it's about stillness and responsibility. A man who knows how to lead doesn't need to command or demand obedience, he simply lives with integrity and consistency. That consistency becomes the anchor, because young women aren't looking for someone to bow to, they're looking for someone they can trust. When you're the steady light in their chaotic room, you don't have to do much, they'll come to you on their own. Once you understand how to lead without controlling, you start realizing something else: young women aren't as complicated as people think. In fact, they're easier to be around but more realistic. Don't mistake them for naive, they're just less wounded. They enter love with openness, less guarded than those who've been through more scars, but that doesn't mean they're easy to fool. Women aged 18 to 29 today grow up faster than the previous generation, exposed early to social media, information, and countless love stories full of lessons and disappointments. They know what they want and, more importantly, what they don't need. That's why they choose men not from impulse, but from a sense of safety and respect. Their energy is young, light, and vibrant, but beneath it lies sharp awareness. They no longer believe in grand promises. They believe in how they feel when they're with you. If they feel peace, they stay. If they feel emptiness, they leave quickly and cleanly. That's why older men have an advantage, but also a responsibility. You don't have to be a teacher in the relationship, but you must have something she can learn from. Not knowledge, but the way you live. Handle pressure, and stay composed when everything else is chaos. She'll observe. They don't need lectures, they need to see. Teach. Don't preach, guide by how you live, not by what you say. That's the key. Young women open up easily, but they also lose interest quickly if they sense there's nothing deeper behind your looks or clever words. They want to feel more mature when they're with you. They want to feel guided without being diminished. They want to feel like they're learning something not through your speech, but through your energy. If you're self-disciplined, she'll learn self-discipline. If you're calm, she'll become calm. If you live with purpose, she'll want to walk beside you. But if you're lost and off rhythm, she'll slip away like water through your hands. And this, bro, is where many men miss the mark. They think young women only want fun, but in truth, they crave emotion, real emotion, with depth and connection. They want to see a man who can love yet still hold boundaries, who can be gentle yet still have principles. The softness of young women doesn't come from naivete, it's because they haven't yet been too hurt to close their hearts. They still believe, still want to love, but they're sharper, wiser, and quicker at spotting who's real and who's not. So if you're not authentic, they'll know instantly. But if you are, they'll stay longer than anyone else ever did. That's why what matters isn't impressing her, it's making her feel safe enough to be herself. And that's something only a mature man can do, not with words, but with presence, with steadiness, with the way he lives true in a world full of fakes. When you learn how to make her feel safe, you'll realize a deeper lesson: every relationship is a game of trust. Not blind trust, but a balance between heart and mind. In this part, bro, what matters most isn't age, it's emotional energy. She may be young, but your emotions must be mature. If you let your emotions be led by hers, everything will fall apart fast. Young women often come to older men because they seek peace, a place to rest between the emotional waves of youth. But if you're not steady, if you yell every time she's upset, if you go silent every time she goes silent, the relationship will quickly turn into an exhausting battle. She doesn't need another boy in a grown man's body. She needs a man who can keep rhythm when she loses hers. And that's what separates being mature from pretending to be calm. You don't have to be cold, just unshaken. Drama is a test if you react like a boy. Game over. But if you stay composed, observe, understand her emotions without being swept away, that's when she begins to respect you. In today's world, EQ emotional intelligence matters more than muscle. A truly strong man isn't the one who wins arguments, but the one who knows when to stay silent, when to speak, and when to walk away. The more you understand yourself, the more you control your energy. And when you control your energy, you control the atmosphere of the relationship. She will mirror that your calm will calm her, your clarity will make her trust you. But if you're chaotic, she'll feel uneasy. If you doubt, she'll pull back. If you panic, she'll leave. So this game isn't about beating her, it's about mastering yourself. Keep boundaries, but don't build walls. Care, but don't lose yourself. Listen, but don't let emotions control you. Young women admire men who can hold the storm without being blown away. And at your age, that's what sets you apart. No need to prove anything, just keep your composure. Because in the end, what keeps her isn't your words, but the feeling that no matter what happens, you'll still stand firm. When you learn to stay calm emotionally, you'll also realize something else, that calmness isn't just needed in your words, but in your physical energy too. The bedroom bro isn't about age, it's about energy. You don't have to talk much about it, just be genuinely strong, not forced. Many young guys try to prove themselves through power, speed, or performance, but mature men understand that true connection lies in rhythm, breath, and listening to both bodies and emotions. At 35 and beyond, you've learned how to slow down not because you're weaker, but because you understand that the deepest things don't need to be rushed. Young women may have met many men, but they rarely meet one who knows how to connect slowly and deeply. The allure of a mature man isn't in his muscles, but in his subtlety, knowing when to move forward, when to pause, when to let her feel instead of forcing her to. It's the control of pace that draws them in. Many think young women only want something passionate, but what they actually remember most is what comes after the feeling of being cherished, seen, and held without being possessed. And Gen Z women have made this clear. They value emotional aftercare, the gentleness, attention, and emotional connection that follows intimacy. They're not looking for perfection, they're looking for presence, and that's what mature men do best. You don't need to prove you've still got it, you just need to show that you're truly there in mind, in eyes, in sincerity. When she feels seen, heard, and understood, the intimate moment becomes unforgettable. But if you treat it as just a physical act, she'll treat you as just a passing memory. Older men have the advantage of knowing that physical connection is only the doorway. What keeps her is the emotional energy that follows. And when you combine both the strength of the body and the subtlety of the mind, that's when you're not just attractive, you're irreplaceable. When you understand that real connection isn't just physical but energetic, you'll realize the final truth: age has never been the problem. What keeps a young woman around isn't your age, but how she feels when she's with you. She may be young, but what keeps her isn't youth. It's the way you make her feel in your presence. Age is just addition, while class is subtraction, subtracting impatience, subtracting ego, subtracting the fear of needing to prove something. When those things fade, what remains is pure energy. A man of 35, 40, even 50, if he knows how to keep his energy, live right, and stay grounded, will always have his own kind of magnetism, a quiet, calm, unforced attraction. A truly attractive man is one with direction, composure, and inner value. Such a man doesn't need to talk much, doesn't need to please anyone, because his very being becomes an anchor for others. Young women can sense that they can smell stability the way you can smell smoke in the wind. When you live right, the young and vibrant are naturally drawn to you, not because you chase them, but because your energy makes them want to stay close. That's something you can't fake, can't buy, can't learn overnight. It comes from how you live each day, how you face fear, how you deal with loneliness without letting it break you. And in the end, bro, the greatest lesson is this: in a world where everyone pretends to be fine, a man who is real, steady, and kind is the rarest thing, and what's rare always has value. You don't need to chase youth, just stand firm, and youth will find you. Because true attraction doesn't come from trying to look young, but from making others feel peace in your maturity. If what I've said resonates with you, don't forget to hit subscribe. Here, we don't preach, we speak truth about men, love, and strength. Stay grounded, bro.